So welcome back to some more conspiracy theories, unexplained mysteries, and overall craziness of the world. But before we get into that, man, I need y'all to help me unplug some more people out of the matrix. And you do that by hitting the like button, then putting hashtag unplugged in the comment section. All right. And if you're new, subscribe. Let's get to the video.
One of the legendary rivers on Earth is the Euphrates River. Since the dawn of time, this body of water has left an impression on humanity because of its immense size and contribution to powerful ancient civilizations like Babylonia and Mesopotamia. However, recently, the Euphrates River started drying up, leaving scientists and researchers with lots of questions. Something seems to be hidden underneath the drying river, something terrifying for all humankind. Join us in this video as we explore the hidden reasons behind the water reduction, the crazy politics and end-of-the-world prophecy concerning the river Euphrates, and of course, the terrifying new discoveries from this drying river. The Euphrates River spans from Turkey to Syria and Iraq. The Euphrates stretches a distance of over 1,730 miles. It originates from the Armenian mountains in eastern Turkey and flows through steep gorges and canyons in Turkey, then through lowlands in Syria before entering the Persian Gulf. It is the longest river in Asia. The only other river similar to the Euphrates in age and purpose is the river Tigris. For a long time, this stretch of river has been the major source of water supply for the people living in that region. Researchers believe the river is at least 10,000 years old, but biblical records show it may be even older. According to the Christian Bible, the Euphrates River is one of the 4 rivers that flowed through the Garden of Eden, where creation began. From biblical records, we learn that
That's the first time I've heard that, bro. I didn't know it was that. That's extremely significant. Why do they always leave that part out? I've never heard it flowed through the Garden of Eden. May have said it and I might have just missed it, but I did not know that. So you learn something new every day, bro. That's some good information there.
Through the Garden of Eden, where creation began. From biblical records, we learn that River Euphrates served as a key dividing barrier between East and West Eden.
Still mind-blowing. Flow through Garden of Eden. That's just blowing my mind, y'all. I'm sorry.
So if we're to follow the story of creation as depicted by the Bible, this river is as old as time. Besides biblical history, science proves that the Euphrates River dates as far back as over 450,000 years ago. This is because some stone artifacts and remains of early Homo erectus have been found buried in this river. The Euphrates River also holds a special place in human history due to its role in creating the Fertile Crescent. According to history, the Fertile Crescent is where agricultural practices began before spreading to the rest of the world. Without the Euphrates River, that part of Mesopotamia would not have earned the name Fertile Crescent. The river provided a continuous supply of clean water for humans of that period to practice their agricultural activities maximally. Even ancient Babylon would never have become so powerful without the Euphrates. Archaeological records show that the Babylonians built structures in and around the Euphrates River for better manipulation and consumption. What is referred to today as Mesopotamia is actually the area of land where ancient Babylonians and Assyrians built their empire. But now, this legendary river is drying up. There's a significant drop in water levels across the length of the Euphrates. Some regions in the lower part of the river are completely dried up, with the cracked riverbed completely visible. Due to these recent developments, farmlands have become barren, and the fishing economies of these locations are now dead, as whatever small pools of water are left contaminated or undrinkable. The once fertile crescent that gave birth to the world's agriculture is now a desolate land. The river used to be so great that you could even see it from space, but now it's practically unrecognizable even at close range. This begs the question, what caused this once powerful flowing river to start drying up suddenly, and what will be the after effects of this drought? Well, as shocking as the Euphrates' drying status seems, it wasn't entirely unexpected. You see, 2 notable things spelled the incoming disaster for the Euphrates: the crazy water politics and the biblical prophecy. The Euphrates River is a major contributor to the successful economies of Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. For as long as we know, each country has been tapping into the river's resources for agriculture and hydroelectric power. As a result, all three countries have had numerous clashes in the past regarding the consumption and control of the Euphrates. Turkey has always had the most control.
Leave it to man to come through and just destroy and interrupt and mess things up for everyone.
Regarding the consumption and control of the Euphrates.
Like, we are our own worst enemy. You know that, right? Like, we are. Our destruction to the planet is just astronomical. We're our own worst enemy.
Turkey has always had the most control over the river since it originates from the Armenian mountains in East Turkey. This is why as far back as World War I, when the borders in and around the region were made, these three nations surrounding the Euphrates signed a treaty. The treaty stipulated how each nation would utilize the water so that all three countries would still benefit maximally. This treaty was made to regulate or minimize any future dams or hydraulic installations that any of these nations would mount across the river to generate hydroelectricity. Turkey was one of the first of these three countries to build a considerable number of dams on the Euphrates. This significantly affected the flow of water into Syria and Iraq. And so, in 1946, they agreed that Turkey would report any significant changes or constructions on the Euphrates River. This agreement also allowed Iraq to construct its own dams on Turkish territory, so they too could utilize a fair share of the river. However, Turkey's dams and reservoirs collected so much water that there was a significant reduction in the river's flow to Iraq. Iraq, which experienced over 15 cubic kilometers of water flow in 1973, received only 9 cubic kilometers in 1975. Iraq was greatly upset by this recent development and threatened to bomb some dams in Turkey. But following a series of negotiations, the three nations agreed, and the dams were opened to release water and thus increase the flow of the Euphrates River to Iraq. Still, Iraq was unhappy that it was always getting the leftovers of this river. Another bilateral agreement in 1989 led to a consensus between Syria and Iraq, in which Syria agreed to always release 60% of the flowing water it received from Turkey into Iraq. This agreement brought peace, and there was no significant disagreement between the three nations over water rationing for over 20 years. However, trouble started again when Turkey rolled out the GAP project. The GAP project angered Iraq. You see, amongst the three nations, Iraq has the least number of dams. Syria has over 6 major dams on the Euphrates alone. Turkey has more than 22 dams and hydroelectric power plants along the Euphrates and Tigris rivers.
Somebody had to get screwed in the deal. Somebody did, and it just so happened to be them, bro. You gotta know that when you playing these political games. Like, everybody's intentions ain't pure. So you know somebody's gonna get the bad end of the deal. And going into it, you just hoping it ain't you, and it ended up being them.
Dams and hydroelectric power plants along the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. On the other hand, Iraq has only 2 dams on the Euphrates, and both are in poor condition as they were built in the late 1980s. Besides, these dams don't get much water since most water flow is already collected at Turkish and Syrian dams. Syria, on its own, has the Tabqa Dam, the country's largest reservoir. Over 500,000 hectares of farmlands depend on the dam for irrigation and drinking water. Besides the Tabqa Dam, Syria and Turkey have smaller dams on the tributaries and streams connected to the Euphrates, further collecting water for use, much to the detriment of Iraq. Turkey's GAP project was launched to harness River Euphrates for irrigation and hydroelectricity production for its southeastern provinces. The project supplies over 10 million people. It's estimated to provide irrigation water to about 1 million hectares of agricultural land in the Euphrates basin. This makes up more than 20% of all the irrigable land in Turkey. The GAP project was a significant win for the Turkish people. The phenomenal dam can hold over 90% of the total water of the Euphrates River. As impressive as this is, it's a selfish move by Turkey. For one, it was a total breach of the treaty, and it spelled outright doom for Iraq, which was barely surviving on leftovers. Sometime in April 2014, the Euphrates water flow into Syria was cut off almost completely, so much that the river barely exceeded the Turkish-Syrian border. Turkey's action clearly violated the agreement it signed in 1987, where it committed to releasing—
And no one can tell me otherwise that this wasn't planned. This wasn't all a part of the plan from the beginning. That's how it goes in my brain. That's just how it plays out. They knew what they wanted to do long term, but they needed to get you on board short term for the long con down the road.
At least 500 cubic meters of water per second to the Syrians. Besides the crazy water politics, another reason the Euphrates is drying, in addition to excessive consumption, is evaporation due to high temperatures. Global warming has been affecting so many areas worldwide and causing significant river evaporation. However, creating several reservoirs and lakes on the Euphrates River seems to have made things worse. Large lakes and reservoirs have very wide surface areas. In high-temperature regions like Turkey, Iraq, and Syria, these lakes and reservoirs will experience increased evaporation, leading to more unnecessary water loss. A recent study of the annual evaporation of reservoirs in the regions around the Euphrates showed that Turkey experiences an estimated 2 cubic kilometers of evaporation annually. Syria experiences 1 cubic kilometer, and Iraq over 5 cubic kilometers annually. Besides poor management of the water body and global warming, many people have identified another factor they believe could explain why the Euphrates River is drying up so fast. It's an ancient biblical prophecy, an end-of-the-world sign. The Bible tells us an interesting but shocking prophecy in the book of Revelations about the drying up of the Euphrates River. According to Revelation 6 verse 12, which reads, "And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water therefore was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared." This Bible passage clearly predicts that the Euphrates River would dry up, but then it says it'll dry up to prepare the way for the kings of the east. Who are these kings of the east? Well, the Bible doesn't say. It's another Bible mystery. But theologians have said that this king of the east is Christ, and the drying up of this river is one of the things that must happen to mark his second coming. Although there are plausible reasons why the river Euphrates is in its current predicament, we can't help but admit that its rapid disappearance has been somewhat mysterious. Research has proven that the waters of the Euphrates River have dried up at a much faster pace than has ever been recorded. Right now, even if Turkey and Syria were to empty all their dams back into the Euphrates River, it still won't recover its former glory. In fact, the scorched and dried up riverbeds may suck up all the water. So it could very well be that some supernatural forces are at play here, causing the Euphrates to dry up. But here's the thing. If truly the Euphrates River drying up was caused by supernatural forces in fulfillment of this biblical prophecy, then it marks the emergence of something terrifying, something that could very much bring destruction to humanity. The terror beneath the Euphrates. Underneath the once great river Euphrates, the Christian Bible tells us the presence of something evil. Let's hear it directly as stated in the book of Revelations, chapter 9, verses 13 to 15. "And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, Loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men." This verse clearly shows that there were angels hidden and chained beneath the river Euphrates all along, waiting for a particular time when they'll be released to torment humankind for 1 month, 1 day, and 1 hour. That's about 745 hours. This portion of the Bible was never given much attention before, not until the Euphrates started drying up rapidly. And now it leaves—
But take that passage from the Bible and then sit back and just analyze and look at everything that's going on in the world. Look at everything. Sit back and just look, and then read that passage again, and then tell me what you think. It ain't too far-fetched, bro. Honestly.
leaves us wondering just what kind of torment will be so bad enough to wipe out 1/3 of all the people on Earth. If you're into mystical beings
Because
and
you think about how bad things have gotten on our planet in this world.
supernatural things, you probably know what angels are and what they look like. Most comics depict angels as beautiful beings with two wings. However, this is just a general description. Angels are of different ranks and take different forms. Moreover, the ones depicted in comics and movies are usually the good ones, nothing like the ones the Bible refers to in this passage. You see, this passage talks about fallen angels. The fallen angels are those angels that joined Satan in rebelling against God, but were defeated and cast down into the earth. Although most of them roam free, the Bible clearly states that these four were chained down. Though we weren't told the names or power levels of these beings, we can guess that they are very dangerous because their allotted time, according to the prophecy, will be just about 700 hours. Yet in this short time, they'll wipe off 1/3 of humanity. If these beings weren't chained all this while, humanity might have been wiped out long ago. Now, as the river begins to dry, it is almost certain that the angel of God will loose these fallen angels upon the earth to wreak havoc. In case you're still in doubt and see all this as mere superstition, know that some terrifying things have been discovered lately beneath the dried-up areas of the Euphrates. First, it's the tunnels. No one ever thought there were tunnels underneath the Euphrates until the river started drying up and revealed several tunnels. Theories have emerged that these tunnels were built by ancient Babylonia and served as the means by which they traveled across provinces underground. However, there are not too many historical records to back this claim. This is why a greater percentage of people believe that these tunnels actually lead to the very chambers where the fallen angels are chained. The majority of people in the area who have ventured into these previously inaccessible parts of the Euphrates have observed these caves and caverns are in strange shapes, different from any caves anywhere else in the world. They believe that humans couldn't have constructed them. Some caves are even said to bear a striking similarity to prison bars, but that's not all. In addition to these weirdly shaped caves, several archaeologists and even common people have reported hearing eerie sounds from deep within the caves. Several recordings of these terrifying noises are on social media. They'll make your skin crawl. And from witnesses, sometimes these sounds seem like groans or howls from a creature. Some witnesses even stated that they've heard what could be likened to moving chains from under the area. All this evidence points to one fact: we might be on the verge of great destruction. The Bible didn't say how these angels would persecute humanity, but from what we know about these beings, they are really powerful and can cause severe global pandemics or planetary disasters that could kill millions of people. All this is in addition to the threat of desertification already facing Syria and its surrounding regions.
And this is not a scare tactic for everyone who wants to be like, oh, why are you just trying to scare everyone? I'm sorry. Giving people when did giving people the information, when did that become a reason to scare people? Making sure people are equipped, have the information to decipher what they want and what they choose to with it. When did that become a scare tactic? I just see people saying that sometimes, saying, oh, you're just trying to scare people. No, I'm not. Trying to make people aware, give them the information. Not trying to scare nobody.
And so, even if the world survives the incoming doom, the chances of Syria surviving with a barren land are quite slim.
Archaeologists have begun a major new excavation of the Roman city of Pompeii. It was destroyed nearly 2,000 years ago after Mount Vesuvius erupted. Our science editor Rebecca Morale reports.
With Vesuvius looming over it, a Roman city perfectly preserved, exactly as it was on the day of a violent eruption 2,000 years ago. But now new secrets are being unearthed in Pompeii's biggest excavation in a generation. Layer by layer, archaeologists are revealing a new snapshot of how Romans lived and died.
This is one of the main streets of Pompeii. It would have been a hive of activity. But let me take you through this entrance into one of the newly excavated areas. This is an atrium, the heart of the building, with a series of rooms running off to each side. At its centre would have been a fountain gently splashing. And you can see, if you come down here, the beautifully preserved white mosaic floor. And the plumbing looks as if it could have been installed just yesterday.
This is a room where 2 beds were standing.
This bedroom, just off the atrium, was the scene of an intense fire. These charred remains are all that's left. A relic of the chaos and ensuing panic of the eruption.
It really was, hell on earth. So we had...
Scary to think about them having to try to evacuate and escape during that eruption, man. You could just almost place yourself there. You know what I mean? I don't know how y'all mind work, but mine, as soon as they start talking about, well, this is where the beds were, my mind automatically go to try to recreate in the scene of what could have possibly happened.
Really was, hell on earth. So we have the eruption, of course, the hot ash arriving, earthquakes.
The team thinks the fire might have been started by a lamp knocked over by people trying to flee.
Victims of the eruption, but also...
Their fate is unknown.
It would be interesting to understand who were the people who didn't make it. Were they the poor, or maybe people who had property and who tried to stay because they were maybe afraid to protect what they have, and others who had just nothing, just took and ran.
The discoveries keep on emerging.
Disabled people as well. Think about that as well. Like that, I know that was a horrific scene.
From an unusual shrine adorned with snakes where people left offerings of food, to piles of roof tiles left exactly as they were, suggesting a room that was mid-renovation. This was a building where people lived and worked.
The team here are trying to work out what the different rooms were used for. This one is pretty obvious though. This is an oven, very similar to an oven you'd see in Naples today, but it is way too big to be inside a home. So most likely this was a wholesale bakery making bread for the people of Pompeii.
It was something like this on the menu, a possible pizza found on a recently revealed fresco. But there have also been some morbid discoveries. 3 skeletons found buried under rubble. The moment was captured by a documentary crew for the BBC's 3-part series on Pompeii's new dig. The bones are extremely fragile. They've been taken to the on-site lab for closer examination.
We have 2 women, probably, and a child, and are totally destroyed by the collapse of the roof.
These bones bear the scars of the horror from what started as a normal day.
Pompeii is a city of horrible stories for the people, not for the houses, for the frescoes, for the object, but for the people, yeah. We start to study the reconstruction of the story of these people to give them a new memory. Only in Pompeii you can see the life of the people, of the Roman people.
This excavation has already given up some incredible new treasures after only a few months. But this is just the start. A third of Pompeii still lies buried beneath the volcanic soil. There are many stories left to tell about this lost Roman world.